Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the man cave of madness. It is just before midnight and we are doing an unboxing of a new release from Compass Games. This is 2040, An American Insurgency. I did the pre-order for this a long time ago, like back in early 2021. Been waiting and waiting. They just did a Kickstarter of it recently, and it's finally come out to the table. They don't do those take early pre-orders anymore. They wait till they're farther along in the pipeline, but it's good to finally see this come out. As usual, I've prepared the shrink to use my handy dandy unshrinking tool, the mystical magical oyster shucker of power +2. So what we have here, all right, let's see there. We're gonna zoom in a little bit. Yeah, let's go all the way in and look at the component list. It is a 34 by 22 map. I would call that a 22 by 34 map, but whatever, short, long distance first. 2 counter sheets, 114 game cards, 2 player aids, a rule booklet, and a 6-sided and a 20-sided die. So we can see here, the designer is Edward Castronova. So let's look at some of those other stats on the game here. Complexity is in the low side. This is out of a 4 on a 10 point scale. Some companies go from 1 to 9, some go from up to 10. So you have to gauge, not always the exact same scale. Time scale is 1 month per turn. So it is an area map, as you can't see there, but you can see up here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. All right. There we go. So, an area map of the entire United States, with Mexico and Canada being out of play. And there was a old insurgency style American Civil War type game, that second American Civil War game that came out in like late 2017, 2018. That, disappointingly, only had like half the country. They didn't include the whole West Coast. They didn't include all of Texas and etc. So that was a disappointing game. But this nicely has the entire United States. Okay, let's look at some more of those details again. Continue with that. Unit scale. Paramilitary cells. So somewhat obviously the federal forces. This is rebel versus federal forces. The federal forces are not going to be paramilitary cells, but the rebel ones are. It's a 2-player game, but does support solitaire. My understanding is it doesn't actually have a solitaire mode per se. You can play it solitaire, but it's designed for 2, best with 2. So 5 out of 10 for solitaire suitability. 1.5 to 3 hours. That's not too bad. All right. Now, one of the things that this says, I'm not going to read all this background stuff, but basically, this game, it says here, not about American politics. It is not anything current or near term. This is the future, 2040. We're at 2023 right now. It is red and blue represent blue and red. Blue is traditional in Army forces, the friendly side, and red is the opposing side. So it's not about the colors associated with any particular political parties. My understanding, this actually has 2 scenarios with where the rebellion sort of foments. Is it in the countryside or is it in the cities? So it can represent, any possibility of where insurgency in the country might arise, and it's not about current politics. All right. Let's look inside. Zoom back out. Let's see how easily this guy comes off or not. All right. That came off nice and easily. Let's see if I can put that back there without it. Oh, is it going to tip? It's going to tip. It doesn't want to stay up. We'll tip it back that way. All right. So first thing I'm getting here, I'm going to zoom out a little more so you can see. Try to keep the title in there back there. The dice. All right, we have a sheet on the top Clarifications. Components. The number of cards, the number of bases, example of play. So it's a minor card. So it is errata. There are some errata. Number is 30.7. General rules. So that's a clarification with regard to unrest mechanic. The rulebook is correct. So read it carefully. It is what it means. I see. In the player aid, it has a mistake. So the rulebook is correct. The player aid has a little boo-boo. Right up. Okay, resistance scenario. Big Sky. Not sure what a CF is. Militia, rebel bases. Oh, in San Francisco and Seattle. So obviously the resistance scenario is one where it appears the rebellion is fomenting in the urban areas. All right. We have a little tiny deck of cards. 2040 An American Insurgency stories. The Associated Press. You can see these like news cards, current event cards, things like that, maybe social media. All right. These are probably that event decks they're talking about, 94. Now, if you look on the side, you can see there's red and there's blue cards. So if you're drawing from this deck, I don't know if you want to maybe put it like in a, how would you describe that? A card dish holder where you don't necessarily see the sides readily. There's an old game I used to play as a kid. Let's see, what was it called? Like Milbon. It was a driving game, a traveling game, and it had like a plastic rack where you put the cards you drew out of it, and then it had a discard thing. And if you had something like that, it might partially obscure, but you'd still see the very top card, but you might not be able to tell what you're drawing there. Well, let's see, are you seeing the top color or the cycle? No, because you can definitely see down here a gradation in the colors. So I don't know. That may not be an actual problem in play. Armored Police Vehicles, General George S. Patton VII. All right. All right. So the federal forces are blue. I'm not sure what the gray is. Some kind of neutral, China, open borders, superbug. It doesn't really say. So, okay, there was a star. That's probably too much glare right there. On the federal cards, these ones just have a number. So they're kind of some neutral cards or something. And the crossed rifles are for the rebellion, obviously. Baseball. That's weird. Ninth inning heroics. If you have fewer victory points than your opponent, retrieve and play a card from the discard pile. Intelligent fashion, tech giants. Yeah, that seems social things going on. Genetic engineering. Apple pie nostalgia. Shocking revelations. The Amish. Lurid tale grabs attention. Choose any slot in the active news stories. Okay, they're news story thingies. So somehow they're related to those other little cards. I'm not sure how, but we will figure that out. Flip that card over. Federal play. Treat it as a 0/0 discard. If rebel play, treat it as a 3/4. That's something to figure out. Okay, so there are no artwork on these cards. You know, they've got the divided states in the back, sort of the flag, but every state has got a little separateness. So, you know, will we stay united? Will we stay divided? And again, separate from current politics, the colors here are the overlay of a U.S. flag over that. But on this side, there are no pictures. The fonts are very easy to read. I'm not sure what these numbers represent. Cost to play or an effectiveness. Some of these have hashtags on it. So like these all seem to have this icon for the red being resistance, but this says hashtag resistance. Maybe that's only in that resistance scenario. Like either you start with this card or It's only for that particular scenario. Did we see? Well, I don't think we've encountered what the name of the scenario is when the rebellion breaks out in the rural area. So let's look at the rule book. Let's go ahead and do that. But there's 2 whole decks of these. So, well, we're digging our way down to the rule book. We've got, looks like 2 counter sheets. Yep, 2 of 2, 1 of 2, and Compass Games has been doing this typically, putting them in shrink wrap, because usually the counters have been falling out. These don't quite feel as naturally loose, but it's still nice to have them in the shrink wrap to help prevent them from falling out and in transit during shipping and all that stuff. So, revolt, order, hacked, leader effect, capital bases. So there's blue bases, red, more red bases. Of course, okay, so these are obviously the paramilitary cells. These are federal. There's no, well, I say we try to open this up. I want to see what's on the back of these. Is there differential strength on the units, or are they all just sort of generic? All right, let's see if I can get in here without doing a naughty split or something. Come on, baby. All right. There we go. Come on. Come to Meandering Mike. Sorry for that little delay there. Oh, yep, see, some are cutting one out already. All right, so the back, oh, no. No numbers. Now that has a stripe. Star on this side, a stripe on that side, whatever that means. These are just, I think so each unit is generically a unit. There's unrest markers there, unrest. Oh, another one coming out. So I'm gonna put that here on the side, flat. All right, order, oh, okay, so they have 1, 2, 3s, anger, defiance, order, okay, so order, anger, defiance, and revolt. So this is probably per state. Are they firmly supporting the federal government? Are they angry about something? Are they now in defiance? And are they in open revolt? All right, that makes sense there, what those are. Base. Reserves, revolt, and bases. Okay, so pretty simple. Okay, there's some federal resources, dark shipment, social media fear. There's probably some kind of track. We're going to get to the map here shortly. Let's see if I can put this back in. That's the problem but for you guys, for you folks, my unboxing, I unshrinked the counter shrink. All right. Let's see what we got here. Okay, let's look quickly at these cards. They look like a playwright. So a news cycle display. Slot 1, 2, 3. Okay, we mentioned about news stories, active stories. Those do, yes. These things here. So I don't know what these numbers are. Viral 0, rebellion 0. Well, this is in an easy open little bag. And remember, of course, as usual, I will be storing these in plastibands, not rubber. I mean, you could easily keep these in these plastic little envelopes that they have here with the stuff. So that's the back. That's the back of the card. That's an interesting back. It's not, they're all Washington Associated Press. So that's a weird back. I've never really seen a card back kind of that way. That seems strange. Viral ones. Viral 1, 0. They're all 0 or 1, it looks like. Oh, there's some 2, 3s. Okay, so viral rating goes from 0 to 3. It's probably how fast this particular news spreads or not. And is this benefiting or hurting the rebellion? Ooh, some of the numbers in red. Rebellion. It's all how it affects the rebellion. Okay, so numbers in black, 0, 1 in hollow, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I don't know if this is similar to the order, anger, defiance, rebellion, but there's 3s and 4s, so I don't know. Super rebellion, I don't know. That may have nothing to do at all with that, or it might be a certain number of points that add up towards going up 1 level or something. I don't know, maybe you have to roll a die, equal or less than, don't know that, but we'll almost ready to look at the rule book. Nothing on the back there. So this you keep out. You got the slots for the stories. Some of those event cards in there affect those stories. So these player aid cards are 2-sided. Federal operations on 1. This is very similar to like a coin game in that aspect, where you've got a player aid card. There's only 2 players here, 2 sides. But you've got operations that they can do, general operations, federals. So everyone has the same. Reserves, social media. Let's see if we can read that, okay. Hack. All right, those look the same there. And then the federal, let's see, can I get that there so you can read that? Taxing, deploying, move, hunt, pacify, and secure. Whereas the rebel does net ops, fundraise, recruit, unrest, move, attack, and surge. Okay, so there's a money factor in here. I don't remember seeing any money counters or tokens like that. So it's probably a track on the game board where you keep track. So one of those little counters in there probably had funds, money, funds. Did I remember seeing that? I can't remember. All right, so there's the map. It's mounted. So here is the rule book. Nice, bright, colorful. You can see some gloss on there. Yeah, look at that glare. It's not too bad. Depends on what angle you have it, but you can definitely do it so you can get a lot of glare. So, excuse me, folks. It's got a picture of the counter sheet, so you can easily tell if you're missing something. You can always compare them to this. You can always print out these pages if you lose anything and glue them onto your own little chipboard or whatnot and make your own spares, replacements, whatever. Scenarios. We're starting from the end, as I often do. A patriot scenario depicting an uprising based in rural areas, and the resistance scenario depicts uprising by urban areas. All right? So it tells you what to take out of the deck or not. Yep, that's right. So remove cards labeled #resistance. The patriot scenario. In the resistance scenario, take out #patriot. Shuffle the story deck. Map. Initial markers. Who gets more points? What, where, who, how. So order 0 cities, order anger 1, defiance 2, revolt. So in the patriot scenario with the uprising based on the rural areas, the revolt cities are in the south. Yeah. Dallas, Denver, Atlanta. Well, I would not call Denver rural, so that's kind of odd to me. Big city in a state with a lot of rural area. Denver to me just doesn't classify as that. Anyway, federal bases, Chicago, suburb, Midwest, militia, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, those are the two. Build your own scenario. So they give you a range of population for this side, that side. So you could have, like one sector of the country, like, what if, more of a southern rebellion, including the big cities and, so if you included, Miami and New Orleans and, Houston and Dallas and whatever. And so a bunch of rural and urban in a certain area. Or you could have the West Coast go or something like that. So you could try different things. All right. So that's interesting. Let's flip to the front and work forward. All right. Oh, one more. Oh, let's see. Do we know how long this is? I'm going to say about 24 pages is my guess. Oh, 22, so 23, 24. Yeah, 24 pages, counting the covers. All right, we got a table of contents, overview, how to win, components, sequence, events, stories, map board, pieces, news, operations, credits, scenarios. Always good at an overview. All right, how to win. I always like it when there's victory conditions up front. Okay, interesting. So you can win militarily, where if you've totally wiped out the pieces on the board of the opponent. An endurance victory. So if you get to the end of that event deck, there's not enough cards to deal a new hand, whoever has the most victory points at that moment wins. They call that endurance victory. So slogging it out. Domination victory. All right. If at the end of a round, either player is at 35 or more, if you get to 35, you win. Bonk. If you both get to 35 tied, or you both get to 35 or above at the same time, the player with the most social media edge wins. Well, that makes sense. You've convinced people one way or another. All right, the domination of 35. If you are 10 or more points greater than the loser's score, it's a decisive victory. All right, domination, endurance, or military. So there we go. Game components. Yeah, we talked about cards, story cards. Militia. Okay, here they're calling them militia. They called them paramilitary cells in the one place. So cannot have more than 30 militia on a field at one time. The non-asterisk side. So on the asterisk side, it's active. And when it's on the the side that had that bar underneath, that's a sleeper cell. Militia are always in sleeper mode when first placed on the map. Maximum 9 bases for the rebel, maximum 9 bases for the federal. I remember only seeing 3, but maybe they were in a different part of that counter sheet. Or was that one of the corrections on the errata // Oh, we got sticking. No. Didn't say that. So, wait, yes. 3 bases. Okay, it is max 3. There it is. I don't know why I didn't see that. Second item of stuff. All right, so there's only 3 bases max for the federals. I said federales. We are doing this in America, not in Mexico. Sequence of play. Action phase. Rebel player goes first, plays 2 cards from his hand. Federal player plays 2 cards. You keep going until all cards are played. I'm assuming you get to draw back. Check the game and end condition to deal a new hand. All right. Deal new hand. Here, the number of cards received by each player depends on their current level of resources. Ooh. You can get 9, 8, or 7 cards. So with a differential number, you can get to the point you're each playing 2, 2, 2, 2. And if you have 9 and he has 8, eventually he'll play his, and then you'll have 1 left over to play. Or 7. If he has 7 and you have 9, he'll have 2 extra to play. Then, well, he'll go 1, and you'd go to 2 up to 8, and then you'd have another 1. Event cards. Yeah, we looked through a bunch of those. Friendly, enemy, and neutral events. Okay, they are called neutral. All right. A key element of game strategy is deciding when to play enemy cards. So, when you play an enemy card, you must take the ops, so that number must be the number of operations that you get, and your opponent gets the event. You can decide whether the ops for the event goes first. So you can say, all right, resolve your event, I'm playing an enemy card. You resolve your event, and then I'll react. Or you might have said, I want to do something here because I maybe want to stamp something out so they can't take advantage of it. So you get that when you, so timing of when you play the enemy cards is important, like it says right there, highlighted in a very light yellow. Story cards, virility factor, VF, rebellion factor, flavor text. Does it tell why they're different colors? Rebellion power on the rebellion track. High numbers are red, low numbers are blue? No, they weren't blue. Were they? They weren't blue on those news stories? They're black. 0 and 1, they're black. 2 was the card color shining through 2, and 3 and 4 were red. So I wonder if that was something. Nope, it doesn't clear that up here, but they're just wrong. They are what they are. Doesn't matter. Low is not good for the rebellion. High is good for the rebellion. That's easy. All right. So the color doesn't really matter. Map board. Let's look at the map board. Let's look at the map board. You've been waiting for this now. Oh, goodness. I think this is kind of thick. It's only one map, 22 by 34. All right, let's see if I can. There's always a problem. I'm always afraid I'm going to tear these things. Come on, boy. All right, now if I can lean it up there so you can see it. Oh, I'm doing it upside down. What's going on, Meandering Mike? What's going on? All right, I'm not going to completely widen it out. I'm going to, well, I'm already zoomed out as far as I can go here. Tilt back. So yeah, as we can see, Canada and Mexico are out of play. I'm assuming they're yellow. So you've got cities, suburbs, the rest of the area. Wow. I guess they don't count Portland. You're not big enough. I call the whole region Cascadia, Northern California, Los Angeles, Phoenix, San Francisco. All right, Big Sky territory. So Denver is the big city there, Big Sky. So yeah, all overwise, you'd call that very rural. So I get where they're coming from, that one where Denver. But Denver itself, Colorado Springs, all that around there, that's certainly not rural. All right. Dallas. So that's the only big city in Dallas. So they do, okay, there's Miami down there. Atlanta, so the south. So they don't have New Orleans. Well, it's there, but it's a little tiny square. There's these, I wonder if you can put bases on those little gray tiny squares. I betcha you can maybe have bases at there. Boston, so New York, the whole New York and Washington. Oh, that's the East Coast, man. Atlanta and Miami. It simplifies things. It makes for a simpler game. The fact that this can play in, what did it say, an hour and a half to 2 to 3 hours? I can't remember. Where's that back of the box of the book? It's a bit. 1.5 to 3 hours. So yeah, you potentially can get done in an hour and a half. All right, so it's kind of a nice looking map. You got, some texture of the mountains, color of the deserty drier, the nice green Pacific Northwest, the nice lush upper peninsula, and then the plains. Now, good old poor Oklahoma with nothing, not a single interstate going through it, not a little, like St. Louis at least has a gray square. Yeah, all right. So, forest, grasslands, mountain, desert, city, background, suburb, that gray, region, boundary, Appalachia. No cities in Appalachia. Nashville, sorry, Nashville, here. Oh, here we go. Smaller cities, no game effect. Sorry, state boundaries, no actual game effect. Really? So you don't actually have units per state? No, that can't be true. Because look, you've got status. So there's a status for each city and a status for their suburbs. You're saying there's no separate, yeah, so there's one status for the whole region. So Big Sky has a status. Denver city, Denver suburbs. Each city status, suburb status, but one. So yeah, that's interesting. You don't actually state by state. Well, that's interesting. Some ways that disappoints me. In some ways it's, well, this is going to be an easy game, something that does take less time, can play quicker, and it'll make it a little more difficult, though, if you wanted to do some of those custom scenarios. I suppose you could figure out a way to have, I don't know, competing forces within the same region? Don't know. Well, I am, let's see, going to call it, there's a reserves, Rebellion Power Track, Rebel HQ, Social Media Track. No, that's weird. ABC, DEF, but that spells Fed. ABC and Fed. I don't know if that was intentional, guys, or not. So let's see. 7 cards, 8 cards, 9 cards. So now I thought the number of cards you drew was based. Oh, yeah, that was, wasn't it? On how many points you had, I guess. Yeah, it was. So that's there. It's telling you that as you get up there, so it helps you finish things off potentially. If you're getting an advantage, you're getting more cards that might help you. So it helps keep a game from stalemating too much. Some games drag on too long. That doesn't mean you still, you might be getting ahead on those victory points, but you're not anywhere near 35 yet, right? And bam, they can wipe out all your units. Or vice versa. They're close to wiping out all your units, but you pull some cool moves and bam, get enough victory points to get to 35 first. So, all right, I'm going to put that away. Now, it does say here, 2022 copyright, but this game did release in 2023. I just got my copy last week. So, yeah, early June is when it came out of 2023. All right, so that is 2040, An American Insurgency. That's a 22 by 34-inch mounted map. Get that closed back down. 94 event cards of Rebellion, the Federals and the Neutrals. Neutral orientation, who they support or not. There's the news story cards. Didn't really look at how that worked, but there was that one page where there's 3 stories and things probably move them in and out of the news cycle. Certain things drift in and new stories come in, etc. And I think that's it, folks. Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness. We have looked at 2040, An American Insurgency. And again, as it said on the back of the box, not on the front, Edward Castronova is the game designer. I do not know what else he has done. I would have to look that up. And do take note, this is non-political. It does not have anything to do with the current blue or red states. Blue represents the Federals, red represents the rebels. Regardless, remember there's two scenarios in here. Rebellion coming from the rural, rebellion coming from the urban areas. You could make up your own scenario. You could do the revolt of the suburbanites or something like that. You know, all sorts of there's rules in there for making custom scenarios. That'll be interesting. So if you plan on getting this game, let me know in the comments. If you already have it or whatnot, you can let me know. And if you're intrigued by that idea of making your own scenarios, if you have any ideas or something like that, the fact that this is a short playtime, I definitely want to get this on the table before the end of the year. As I've said a couple of times, I've got my 10 games for the year for the War Room live stream group. If you haven't checked them out yet, it's on ID Jester's channel every week on Saturdays, except he's going to be gone a couple of weeks because he's got a thing, so that might be either on Tony's Board Life or maybe on Rough Swordsman Wargamer. That's the three gentlemen that comprise the team that does the War Room. So anyway, I've got a list of games there I'm working through. I'm on my 6 out of 10 for the year, and once I get to like 9 out of 10 done, then I'll start playing around more and trying other stuff that's not on my list, just to make sure I can get all 10 of those games done before the end of the year. So yeah, I'd like to get this to the table. So Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness, we're over 36 minutes. All you good folks out there, take care. And remember, can't we all just get along, folks? Can we all just get along? All right. So take care and ciao.